We are back here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. We talk a lot on this program about law and order. And part of that process is probation. I'm joined now by Dalvanie Powell. Ms. Powell is the president of the New York City United Probation Officers Association. Good morning, and thank you for appearing.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Of course. You had an op-ed in yesterday's Daily News, and I'll get to that in just a second. But parole versus probation. I want you to explain this for us. Now, it's my understanding that parole, which is not what you represent, is part of the correctional sentence process following incarceration. So what exactly is probation?
Okay, so probation is the alternative to incarceration, right? Probation is like when a person gets sentenced, if they don't go to jail, then they get sentenced to probation. And people tend to forget that they tend to get us mixed up with parole. The difference with us and parole is that probation, they remain in the community and they're provided with services while they remain with their family, giving them another chance at life, right? But we can also have a person on probation that gets a split sentence that they can serve a certain amount of time on, like, less than a year with Rikers and then come out and spend the rest of their time on probation. Whereas a person that gets sentenced to parole, they've served state time, right? They serve more than a year in state prison, and then they come out and they receive community supervision. Both are community supervision, but probation is a combination of community supervision and correction alternative.
So your members are very important in the process and keeping our streets safe in terms of monitoring people that may have made mistakes, criminal mistakes in the past.
Right. But in addition to there's so many moving pieces to probation that people tend to forget about. See, probation officers provide services not only for adults but also for youth that's in the system as well, right? And so people tend to forget about that component. And there's more to the body. The majority of us is, yes, supervision probation officers, but there's also the intake process and the investigation process, because without those two components, you couldn't have the supervision. So we have officers that do the front end part of the probation piece. And we also have an officer that sits in Rikers that does the intake as well for those who's doing the split. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to probation. And we also do family custody cases as well.
We are chatting with Dalvanie Powell, who is the president of the New York City United Probation Officers Association. Now, you and I share some similarities, Ms. Powell. We're both from the Bronx. And in your case, I thought about law school up at Syracuse University, was accepted, but I didn't go. You planned on going to law school, but after graduating from John Jay, as you describe in your bio, you had a 5-year pit stop with the New York City Probation Department. So you feel it was the right call for you?
Was it the right call for me?
Yes, probation.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I believe that I'm a person that is believe in the higher power, which is my God. And I believe that God, this was his plan for me. I might not have become the lawyer or to advocate for people from a lawyer's seat, but I advocate for people as a probation officer. I advocate for people as the president of this union. Let me tell you, being a probation officer was never in my plans. That's why I know this had to be something that came from a higher power, and I enjoy it immensely. So the 5 years became, this September will be 34 years.
Now let's get into an issue of controversy for your members. Your op-ed in yesterday's Daily News was titled, "For Justice, Pay Us What We're Worth. Probation Officers Deserve Better." Contract dispute with the city of New York?
That was my article, yes.
Okay, and what's the bottom line of the issue here in terms of the contract issue that you're having with the city?
Well, our last contract expired in 2019, so we are looking, I guess once the new mayor comes into place, we want to begin starting our contract negotiations. But the issue is that when I became the president, I did an analysis of our salaries, and in our contracts we have that as probation officers supposed to make like right now about $71,000, and then the supervisor probation officer is supposed to be making now about $90,000+. But the reality is that it never happens, and the way it's structured, it will never happen. We get step monies, we get longevity monies, but the way it's designed, we will never reach our top salaries. We have people who worked at probation that retired after 40 years plus, and they never reached their top salary. So this affects our, way of living. It affects your pension, and it has a domino effect. So when I realized this, I reached out to an attorney, my attorney, Yitza Kirkland, and I spoke to her about it, and now we are trying to have our salaries and pay parity with other law enforcement like corrections and police and other agencies that get a guarantee. They have a guarantee that after a certain amount of years, you're going to make X amount of dollars. We're like for us, like chasing the carrot. It's never going to happen. So now that's where we're at. We're trying to get pay parity as well as reach that top salary.
Let me ask you this. What has been the challenges for probation officers, New York City probation officers, during the pandemic, COVID-19? What have been the challenges, and how did you get around them?
We never stopped working. We never stopped. We had the only thing, my members continued to go out in the field and do the field visits safely. They continue to maintain contact with the probationers because they had to, because our primary focus is public safety, so we couldn't stop. So it never stopped. We just had to do things a little different. We did it, instead of having the probationers come into the office, we did remote access. We meet them outside in the street and stuff like that, but it never stopped. As a matter of fact, during the pandemic, because of the increase of COVID cases that was happening in Rikers, we was ordered by the deputy mayor to start monitoring people. They was pulling people out of Rikers, and we had to start actually monitoring those people, and we had to bring back electronic monitoring. So what happens is, in a time of crisis, my members rise to the occasion. In addition to electronic monitoring, we had to also get out there, and we have these pantries in the 5 boroughs, and we was, volunteering or had to help in feeding people who were not on probation but within the community. So we never stopped. If anything, our responsibilities became more enhanced.
Wow. That
became more, right.
It is amazing, and I don't think that most people understand that. Wow. I only have about 2.5 minutes left here.
Wow.
When the raise the age took effect in October, that changed the job, I believe, for probation officers. How so?
Right. Because what happened was you had people that, just like the same thing like with corrections, we had people that was once 16, 17 old, that was once under the adult services, had then been shifted over to the family court services. And their responsibilities became more enhanced, and they had to deal with a different type of clientele, a more mature clientele. One good thing about the family court part, for those who had to shift over from race to age, they had another chance. Another layer was the adjustment layer, and they had another chance to, correct their behaviors. And in the adjustment area, which is a beautiful piece about the family court, is that they're somewhere in between. They're not on probation, but they're not really a part of the system, and we provide them with services for a certain amount of time. But everything it got enhanced along with the COVID, along with the raise of age. Everything just got enhanced. And I just want to tell you that with these criminal justice reforms, cases that were once going to the jail-bound cases that were once would have been incarcerated are now becoming a part of more so of our caseload. We've always dealt with misdemeanors and felons, but now we're getting even more violent individuals that's being placed on probation. So our responsibilities have gone up. We're doing more search and seizures and stuff like that. And I want to also tell you, we always have a specialized unit called the Intel Unit who travel from state to state picking people up on warrants, and people don't know about that. And probation, each part of the criminal justice system has a role. Police has a role, corrections has a role, lawyers have a role, and probation has a role. But we're the part of the puzzle that's often forgotten. And not only are the police taking the guns off the streets and the drugs off the streets and the sex paraphernalia off the streets, but my members are taking the guns off the streets and the guns, the drugs, and the illegal monies off the street as well. But we don't get the credit for it. So it's all one big collaboration, huh?
we are chatting with Dalvanie Powell, who is the president of the New York City United Probation Officers Association. I'm short on time, but I find what you were saying fascinating. So I have to have you back another time when we have more time. Your union has been suing the city in court to release salary documents. Why? And I only have about a minute left, but why are you suing the city? And answering this question, or at least suing to get these documents. Also, how can people learn more about the union and your work?
Well, we wanted to sue in the city because we want to show that we want to bring out the truth about our case, right? And the other part is that if they want to know more about probation, they can always contact me at United. They can reach out to me to 212-226-1069. You can also contact Candace Sandy, who's the department's PR person. You can contact Suzette Mapp, who's the deputy commissioner for human resources. But if they ever want to know more, and they can also check out our website, and find out more. And I'll be happy to give them information.
Thank you. And I look forward to chatting with you in the future because I find this fascinating because you are a critical part of the law enforcement process. And we need to learn more about what probation officers actually do. So, Ms. Dalvanie Powell, the president of the United Probation Officers Association of New York City, we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your summer.